It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. In the middle of a conversation, I thought I was winning. I remember finishing my sentence and waiting for a response. But instead of arguing back, he just looked at me. And that silence did something to me I wasn't ready for. At the time, I didn't think I talked too much. I thought I was clear, assertive, efficient. I worked as a project manager in a mid-sized marketing firm, and my job was basically built around communication. Meetings, calls, presentations. I believed words solved problems. If something felt off in a relationship, you talked it through. If a team member underperformed, you addressed it. If you disagreed with someone, you explained your logic. To me, silence meant weakness. It meant someone didn't have an answer. That was my assumption. The office environment fed that mindset. Open desks, constant Slack notifications, brainstorming sessions where the loudest idea often won. I was good at that world. I could think fast, respond fast, fill gaps in conversation before they became awkward. Awkwardness made me uncomfortable, especially the quiet kind. There was a designer on our team named Daniel. He was talented, precise, the kind of person who noticed small details everyone else missed. But he didn't talk much. In meetings, he'd listen carefully, sometimes jot something down, and only speak when directly asked. I used to interpret that as disengagement. I remember thinking, if you have something to say, just say it. One afternoon, we were reviewing a campaign concept for a big client. It was high pressure, tight deadline, everyone slightly tense. I presented the strategy confidently. It made sense in my head, logical, efficient, safe. When I finished, I looked around the table. A few nods, a few neutral faces. Then I looked at Daniel. He was staring at the screen, not at me. His expression wasn't critical, it wasn't impressed either, just thoughtful. "Thoughts?" I asked. He hesitated for a second and then said quietly, "I'm not sure it connects emotionally." That was it. No explanation, no detailed critique, just that sentence. Something about it irritated me. It felt vague, unhelpful. "What do you mean?" I asked, probably sharper than I realized. He shrugged slightly. "It works logically, I just don't feel anything from it." I jumped in immediately. I explained the data behind the concept, the research, the proven structure. I talked about audience segmentation, past campaign performance, projected conversion rates. The more I spoke, the more I felt justified. I was defending the idea, but if I'm honest, I was defending myself. When I finally stopped, expecting him to counter or clarify, he didn't. He just looked at me. Not in a challenging way, not dismissive, just calm. And he stayed silent. It lasted maybe 5 seconds, but it felt longer. I remember feeling this strange discomfort creeping up. My brain started searching for something to fill the gap. Another argument, another statistic, a joke, anything. But he didn't rescue me from it. He didn't say, "You're right." He didn't say, "Never mind." He just let the silence sit there. And in that quiet space, I heard my own defensiveness echoing. For the first time, I noticed how fast I had reacted. How quickly I assumed his comment was an attack. How I didn't actually pause to understand what he meant. The meeting moved on eventually. Someone changed the topic. But that moment stuck with me. Later that evening, I replayed it in my head while driving home. The way he looked at me. Not angry, not intimidated, just steady. I remember thinking, why did that bother me so much? It wasn't what he said, it was what he didn't say. He didn't fight back. He didn't try to prove anything. He didn't fill the silence. And somehow that made me confront myself. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing something uncomfortable about my own behavior. I interrupted people more than I realized. When someone hesitated while speaking, I finished their sentences. When there was a pause in conversation, I rushed to close it. I told myself I was being efficient, but maybe I was avoiding something. Silence felt like a threat to me, because silence creates space, and space forces you to listen. A few days after that meeting, Daniel and I ended up alone in the office kitchen. It was late. Most people had left. I decided to ask him something. "Hey," I said casually, "about that campaign. When you said it didn't connect emotionally, what did you mean?" He took a second before answering. It felt like it was trying to convince people, not understand them. That sentence landed heavier than I expected. He continued, still calm. Sometimes when we focus too much on proving we're right, we stop being curious. I didn't respond immediately. There it was again, that space. But this time, I didn't rush to fill it. I thought about client calls where I had prepared rebuttals before the client even finished speaking. I thought about arguments with my younger sister where I was more focused on correcting her perspective than hearing her. I thought about conversations where I wasn't listening, just waiting for my turn. Maybe I had confused communication with control. That realization wasn't dramatic. It wasn't some life-changing explosion. It was quieter than that. Just a small crack in the way I saw myself. The real turning point came a month later. We had to pitch the revised campaign to the client. I had adjusted the concept slightly, adding more human storytelling elements, inspired indirectly by Daniel's comment. During the presentation, the client interrupted midway. "I'm not sure this speaks to our older audience," she said. Normally, I would have jumped in instantly, but this time, I paused. I let her finish completely. Then I waited 2 seconds longer than felt comfortable. In that pause, something interesting happened. She continued speaking. She explained her concern more clearly. It wasn't about age, it was about trust. Her older audience valued reassurance more than inspiration. If I had responded immediately, I would have argued against the wrong problem. Instead, I asked, "Can you tell me more about what reassurance looks like for them?" The entire tone of the meeting shifted. It became collaborative instead of defensive. Afterwards, Daniel gave me a small nod. No big acknowledgement, just recognition. Externally, nothing dramatic changed in my life. I still ran meetings, I still shared ideas, I still spoke confidently. But internally, something had shifted. I started practicing intentional pauses. When someone criticized my work, I didn't immediately justify it. When a friend vented about their relationship, I resisted offering quick solutions. When my sister called me frustrated about her job, I let her speak without correcting her perspective. At first, it felt unnatural. My mind would race during those quiet moments. I'd feel the urge to jump in. But gradually, I noticed something. People revealed more when I stopped trying to manage the conversation. They felt heard. And I learned more than I ever did while talking. Silence wasn't weakness. It was information. It showed you what made you uncomfortable. It revealed your assumptions. It exposed your need to be right. I realized I used to equate quick responses with intelligence, with competence, with strength. But real confidence, I started to see, didn't rush. It didn't panic in the absence of noise. It allowed space for other people's perspectives. The biggest surprise wasn't how others changed. It was how I felt. Calmer, less defensive, more curious. I started catching my internal reactions before they turned into words. I'd noticed the thought, "That's wrong, you don't understand, let me explain." And instead of acting on it, I'd examine it. Why do I need to correct this? What am I afraid will happen if I don't? Often the answer was simple. I was afraid of being misunderstood. But ironically, by constantly talking, I was the one misunderstanding others. The hidden truth I learned wasn't about communication skills or business strategy. It was about control. I used words to control perception, to shape outcomes, to protect my identity as the capable one. Silence removed that shield. It forced me to sit with uncertainty. And uncertainty is uncomfortable, but it's also honest. Months later, during a team feedback session, one of my colleagues said something that surprised me. "You've changed," she said. "You listen more now. It makes it easier to share ideas." I didn't feel proud in a dramatic way. I felt steady. Because I knew the change wasn't about becoming quieter. It was about becoming aware. There's a difference. I still believe words matter. Communication matters. Clarity matters. But now I understand something I didn't before. The most important part of any conversation often happens in the space between sentences.
In the pause after criticism, in the moment before reaction, in the quiet when you're tempted to defend yourself. That's where perspective shifts. That's where empathy begins. That's where you meet your own psychology. Looking back, that Tuesday afternoon wasn't dramatic. No shouting, no big conflict. Just a sentence and 5 seconds of silence. But those 5 seconds held up a mirror I didn't know I needed. Sometimes I wonder how many times in life we talk ourselves out of learning something just because we're afraid of a quiet room. We assume silence means rejection, or disapproval, or weakness. But what if it's just space? Space to understand, space to question our assumptions, space to realize we might not be as right as we think. Now, whenever a conversation feels tense, I notice my impulse to fill it, to smooth it, to win it. And instead, I try something different. I breathe. I wait. I listen. Because the moment silence became my teacher, I understood something simple but uncomfortable. The loudest voice in the room isn't always the strongest one. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say nothing at all and really hear what's been there the whole time.